It is the year 88 BC. A Roman legion stands poised outside the gates of Rome, but they are not there to defend the city from barbarians. They are there to conquer it. At their head rides a man with eyes the color of ice and a face scarred by disease. He is Lucius Cornelius Sulla. He is about to do the unthinkable. He is about to turn his sword against his own people. History often remembers Julius Caesar as the man who destroyed the Roman Republic. But Caesar was merely walking through a door that had been kicked open decades earlier. The man who kicked it open was Sulla, and the man who forced his hand was the greatest hero Rome had ever known, Gaius Marius. This is the story of the First Civil War, the clash of two titans that turned the Forum into a slaughterhouse and taught Rome a deadly lesson, that laws mean nothing when faced with legions. To understand this blood feud, we must meet the players. On one side, we have Gaius Marius. He was a novus homo, a new man. He came from nowhere, with no noble ancestors. He rose to power on sheer military genius, saving Rome from barbarian invasions not once, but twice. He reformed the army, allowing the poor to serve, creating a force loyal not to the state, but to their general. He was the idol of the mob, the hero of the people. But by 88 BC, Marius was old. He was in his 70s, driven by a jealous fear that his glory days were over. On the other side stood Sulla. Born into a ruined patrician family, Sulla clawed his way back to the top through charm, ruthlessness, and brilliance. He had served as Marius's subordinate in Africa, where he captured the enemy king Jugurtha. Marius took the credit, but Sulla wore a ring engraved with the moment of the capture, a constant, silent insult to his former boss. The tension simmered for years, but the spark that ignited the war came from the east. King Mithridates of Pontus had risen up, slaughtering 80,000 Roman citizens in a single day. Rome needed to send an army. The Senate chose Sulla, the current consul, to lead the war. It was a chance for unimaginable wealth and glory, but Marius, sitting in his villa, couldn't stomach it. Consumed by envy, he made a backroom deal with a corrupt tribune named Sulpicius Rufus. Through riots and mob violence, they forced the Senate to strip Sulla of his command and give it to the aging Marius. It was a political coup. In the old days, Sulla would have accepted his fate and gone into exile. But Sulla was not a man of the old days. He fled Rome and arrived at his army camp in Nola. He told his soldiers, men who expected rich plunder from the east, that Marius would replace them with his own troops. The soldiers were furious. They stoned Marius's messengers to death. Then Sulla gave the order that changed history, to Rome. When Sulla's legions entered the city, the shock was absolute. It was sacrilege. Weapons were forbidden inside the sacred boundary of the city, the Pomerium. Marius attempted to mount a defense using gladiators and armed slaves, but he was no match for trained legions. Sulla fought his way through the streets, burning buildings to clear his path. He seized the Senate and declared Marius a public enemy. Marius, the savior of Rome, was forced to flee for his life. The stories of his escape are legendary. At one point, he was found hiding naked in the mud of a swamp in Minturni. A local soldier was sent to execute him in a dark room. But legend says the old general's eyes glowed in the dark, and he roared, "Do you dare kill Gaius Marius?" The soldier, terrified by the living legend, dropped his sword and ran. Marius escaped to Africa, waiting for his moment. Sulla, believing he had restored order, took his army east to fight Mithridates. It was a fatal mistake. The moment Sulla left, Marius returned, and he was no longer the hero of the people. He was a senile, vengeful madman. Partnering with Sulla's enemy, Cinna, Marius marched on Rome. This time there was no mercy. They entered the city and initiated a bloodbath. Sulla's supporters were hunted down and butchered in the streets. Their heads were severed and displayed on the rostra in the Forum, a grotesque decoration for the city center. Marius declared himself consul for the 7th time, a prophecy fulfilled, but died just days later, likely from a stroke brought on by rage and alcohol. Rome breathed a sigh of relief, but they forgot one thing. Sulla was still out there, and he was winning. In 83 BC, Sulla returned from the east. He was victorious, battle-hardened, and utterly merciless. He crushed the Marian resistance at the Battle of the Colline Gate, right outside Rome's walls. Sulla appointed himself dictator, an office that hadn't been used in over a century. But unlike dictators of the past who served for 6 months, Sulla's term had no limit. He decided to cleanse the state. He invented the proscriptions. These were lists posted in the forum. If your name was on the list, you were stripped of your citizenship. Anyone could kill you and claim a reward. Your property was confiscated, and your sons and grandsons were banned from holding office. Senators, knights, and wealthy merchants were slaughtered by the thousands. Some were killed for politics, others simply because they had a nice villa that one of Sulla's henchmen wanted. When a young senator asked Sulla when the killing would stop, Sulla famously replied, "I have not yet made up my mind whom I shall spare." Eventually, Sulla did something even more shocking than marching on Rome. He resigned. Having reshaped the constitution and crippled the power of the tribunes, he stepped down from the dictatorship and retired to his country estate, where he died a year later of liver failure. Or perhaps, as rumors claimed, eaten alive by lice. His epitaph, which he wrote himself, read, "No friend ever served me, and no enemy ever wronged me, whom I have not repaid in full." Sulla believed he had saved the republic. In reality, he had shown every ambitious general after him exactly how to kill it. He proved that the Senate was weak and that the only true law was the sword. Among those who survived Sulla's purge was a young man, the nephew of Marius's wife. Sulla had spared him, though he remarked, "In this young man, I see many Mariuses." That young man was Julius Caesar, and he was taking notes.